let's hit on that one point here. The dangerous international situation voter with Rachel Maddow, who is here in New York, and Pat Buchanan, who is in New Hampshire. All right, Pat, interpret these numbers, and then Rachel, go ahead and reinterpret them. On Iraq, he's a 2-to-1 favorite over Romney on handling Iraq. On terror, McCain was about 1 3/4 to 1 favorite over Romney.
Well, that's very bad news for Rudy Giuliani, who would be relying on the terrorism issue in Florida, which is his last chance state. This was an outstanding victory for John McCain. It's a decisive victory, and I think it carries him forward into Michigan and into South Carolina, where Huckabee is clearly the front runner right now. Romney has 2 second-place finishes and 1 win out in Iowa, Keith. And Michigan becomes very important because I don't think Romney can win South Carolina. But this is a wide-open race still where you get, if they all get to February 5th, I think it's really undecided. You notice how Huckabee was enthusiastic about McCain's win. I think that's because he feels that in the longer run, McCain can be beaten out there in Republican primaries, but it might be much tougher with Mitt Romney. But Romney's got to start looking for his first win.
What I think is interesting, Pat, is that, you know, a lot of the times these things are decided not necessarily on what the largest number of voters think, but which voters feel something so intensely that they can be always counted on to turn out and vote in great numbers on it. Now, if Republican voters are going to make their primary decisions based on the war and on terrorism and not on domestic issues, that's very bad for Mike Huckabee. That's very bad for Mitt Romney. It's good for both McCain and Giuliani in their respective states. But heading into Michigan, I mean, looking at the Michigan polls right now, the Detroit News has Romney up by 2, MRG has McCain up by 3, and Rasmussen has Huckabee up by 1. So heading into Michigan, it's as wide open as it can possibly be. It may come down to what Republican voters think is the most important issue, not which candidate they think has more negative ads or something.
Right, and in Michigan, of course, you got your economic troubles up there. It's one of the few states that really has seen unemployment rise. But I will say this, if Republicans are thinking about foreign policy and defense, they're going to go now, I think, for McCain. And this suggests the kind of presidential campaign McCain would run, which would be very hardline against the Democrats who want to get out of Iraq. That would be his key issue. And the country, of course, is very much in favor of not losing in Iraq, but getting out of Iraq. But this thing is really tossed up in the air. But there's no question, John McCain is back, and he is a serious candidate for the nomination.
What I think is
it's a three-way race. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, what I think is going to be really interesting to watch is if it does come down to the war and terrorism being the issue for Republican voters, how are Giuliani and McCain going to run against each other? McCain is running essentially as the guy who's been around for a long time, who has personal military experience. Giuliani is running as the mayor of 9/11, but they've both all but 100% endorsed President Bush's way of dealing with both terrorism and the war. So if they can't be change candidates on that issue.
On that face-off now, I would give it to McCain for this reason. One, the victory in New Hampshire, the momentum going into South Carolina, and also the very fact that I think McCain on defense issues, foreign policy issues, is very, very strong, whereas Giuliani is a terrorism issue man almost alone. So if it comes down to a battle on those issues, the two will split the vote, but I would bet McCain would come in higher than Rudy Giuliani.
Well, we'll have to see it, but I think those two fighting is going to be fun to watch.
All right, Pat Buchanan. All right, Rachel Maddow. Of course, the one caveat with all of that is that the #1 polling, according to the #1 issue, according to the exit polling for Republicans in New Hampshire, like the #1 issue for Democrats in New Hampshire, not Iraq, not counterterrorism, not immigration, not George Bush's presidency, but in fact the economy. So we'll see how that continues, this idea of 52-card pickup in the Republican side of events.